Okay, well, I appreciate the introduction. Before we get started, just feel free to get up, get pizza, get drinks, use the restroom. Like, this is not an overly formal or scripted presentation. Also, please interrupt me if you have questions. As we go, you can save until the end. I don't know if we'll be here an hour and a half, maybe a little less. Without anyone's going to complain if you get to go home early. I won't. But do interrupt, because I want to answer all your questions. If I can't answer your questions, I'll write them down and get back to you. I am going to talk a lot about, what we've done in Ankeny, but what we've done in Ankeny applies to any city in the state of Iowa. So we've got documents out there and plans that we've done that we've hired consultants to do, and it's amazing because you could honestly replace the word Ankeny with any town in the state, because they're universally applied kind of recommendations that, whether it's Holy Cross, Dubuque, whatever it may be, you can scale it up or down however you want. So with that, I'll start with a little bit about me, and then I would like to go around the room. Just if you just say your name, who you're with, or kind of what's your interest in being here real quickly, give me a better understanding of what people's interest is so I can kind of tailor my comments. My name's Derek Lohr. Like you said, I'm at the City of Ankeny. Been doing economic development for the city for about 12 years now. Prior to that, I was with the state. I did with the Iowa Economic Development Authority, I did downtown revitalization, community investments, and CDBG grants. I did that for a couple of years. Before that, I was with the city of Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I've done economic development at different levels, and the bike tourism thing's a little new, a little bit different, and I'll get into why we have taken this on in Ankeny. But with that, I'll go this way. If you just want to say your name and kind of why you're here, who you're with.
I'm Luke Myers. I'm from Holy Cross. I'm on the Holy Cross City Council. So,
my name is Heidi. I am with the City of West Branch. I'm the finance director. And I am here just to learn more about trails and more of the financing. I don't know if we're going to talk about financing side of it. And the Parks Director.
Oh, great.
My name is Erin. I'm part of the Our Hometown Pride Committee here in Holy Cross. And we are just looking for what avenues we can be taking to put trails in the area, or where can we even start?
Yep.
in Holy Cross City Council.
Great.
Dave Ernst, Mayor of Riverside, Iowa. And a learning.
Okay.
Scott, I'm volunteering on the board. Guessing.
Erin Baskey, I'm on the Holy Cross Hometown Pride Committee.
Brian Myers, Mayor of Holy Cross.
We published this meeting. We got quorum here, don't we?
We haven't acted this town.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Beth Ernst in Holy Cross Pride Committee. Actually, like Holy Cross Hometown Pride.
I'm Amanda DuPont. I'm with BCIA and I do football with BCIA, but then I also live in Boston, which is amazing.
I'm Bill Nichols. I'm also with ECA and keep out a beautiful community coach for the Black communities.
Aaron Laughlin with City of West Branch. We have a trail coming to our town from Iowa City.
Yeah.
We're rail trail.
Yeah.
That's not done.
When's the trail going to connect from Iowa City?
They're doing their portion in 2027. A little portion that our city will do.
Yeah.
To really do that.
Yeah.
Amy Vanderhaar, city clerk, here with us.
Yes.
And I will just put a little plug if you could, so fill these surveys out either during or after. Back me to the grid.
Yeah, and I'm not good with this format here, so I see we have 4 people online. Everyone here can see your name on the screen, so instead of unmuting everyone, unless you want to unmute everyone,
If you want to.
if you want to unmute, if you're online, please introduce yourself. How's that? You just remember to unmute yourself.
Perfect. I'll go first because I got to bounce back and forth. I'm Jacob Oswald. I am the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Monticello, and also sit on the Monticello Main Street Board of Directors. I'm only bouncing back and forth because I got to run a pickleball league tonight. So apologize. That's why I'm on Zoom. So appreciate you doing this. We've started trails here in the last few years, so just kind of looking for some additional knowledge and hopefully some statistics that I can use with our city council.
Great. Sean?
Second. Yeah, my name is Sean Murphy Lopez. I work for Tool Design and we're a consulting firm. And I live kind of close to Dubuque, so I'm on the mailing list and I work on a lot of trails plans. And actually, we were hired by some communities in South Dakota to do a rail to trail feasibility study. And one of the things they want to know is what the economic impact of that rail trail could be. So I'm just here to learn.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Stacy?
Yes, Stacy Bauer. I'm the director of the Piasta Community Center. I'm here because we're starting to do more with trails, want to implement them more within the city and want to learn as much as I can.
Great. Sam?
Hello, yep, Sam Ertl with Fairgram, out of Manchester. I'm working with a small committee in Delaware County. We're trying to get a trail kind of from Hopkett to Delhi. So we've been kind of working over the last few years to try to get a new trail started. So just kind of here to learn and get some feedback. So.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I appreciate, like I said, everyone being here. Thanks for the introductions. That helps. It sounds like everyone's kind of at a various stage in development or ideas for how to get trails or leverage trails, connect trails. So before we jump into the presentation, just want everyone to throw out kind of what you feel makes for a great community. Trust me, this goes somewhere. So what are some of the components that make for a great community? Mayor?
Resident involvement and volunteers.
Citizen engagement?
Opportunities,
yeah.
A variety of people.
Diversity, variety of people, good one. Anyone else want to throw anything out? No?
Economic stability.
Economic stability, yeah. Yeah, we got safety, basic stuff like that. I will say I always try to hit on three, and it ties into trails because it's people make a great community. A lot of times that's overlooked. Planning, a lot of planning goes into trail development. Planning makes for a great community. Like trails don't happen overnight. You don't build them overnight. You don't leverage them overnight. Years of planning to build and construct and leverage trails. And the last one, I always kind of call it the 3 Ps: people, planning, and partnerships. As you know, those in the room know, with hometown pride, whether at the city level or organizational level, partnerships are key. Like no one's going out and building and leveraging trails on their own. So whether it's through the Iowa Economic Development Authority, your city, your county government, whatever it may be, just know that it takes partnerships, kind of the 3 Ps: people, planning, and partnerships to make trails happen. The other thing that's important with trails, I've learned in my experience is, and it really applies to any community development project, every project needs a champion. Like everyone wants the same thing. Everyone around the room, we could all be residents of Holy Cross and we all want trails. But unless someone wants to own it and drive it, leverage it, and champion it, it's never going to happen. So I always joke in my career, if I ever retire and write a book, it's going to be titled every good project needs a champion, because without it, they don't go anywhere. So those kind of, high level introductory things. In Ankeny, diving into the presentation here, we have the High Trestle Trail. We know, it's a trail like any other, except at one end, there's this magnificent bridge that's 25 miles north of Ankeny. But our trail through Ankeny is no different than a trail through West Branch or Holy Cross or Balltown or whatever. It's flat through the cornfield. We just have an anchor at the end, but it's 25 miles away. It's not in the city. So don't let that kind of cloud my remarks saying, wow, we don't have the High Trestle Bridge. That's not the case at all. But we set out as a growing suburban community, developed very rapidly, to really strengthen our identity, right? Our identity as a community, it's when I started 11 years ago, it's I joked with people, there was nothing in Ankeny I could take a picture of and go out to downtown Des Moines and show people that picture and say, where is this? And everyone would be like, oh, that's in Ankeny. We didn't have any sort of strong identity around a structure or a downtown. So this trail tourism, economic development I'm talking about, as much as it is about quality of life and connecting people and economic development, it's also part of creating and strengthening our identity as a community, which is something, we're now 75,000 people we haven't really historically had. So we've really leaned into trails as like our unique niche as a community because it kind of separates us because we got 3 regional trails kind of coming together. But we set out, kind of go through the agenda here. We're going to talk through the data collection, how we collect the data, what the data shows. The strategies are kind of, I think it's 10 or 11 different strategies. They're all available on our website, on our bicycle tourism plan. So you can read the full document. These are just some kind of sections I've pulled. Some implementation strategies on how to kind of make a difference with trails in your community, and then kind of touch on our progress and the things that we're doing. And like I said, that's very, very scalable for every community. So I always start with trails. I mean, they're different for everyone. There's people, it's like trail is their escape to nature. Other people, it's a place to walk their kids in a stroller after work. Other people, it's about biking long distances and socializing and drinking beer at the next bar with their friends. And that's great for everyone. But just know that everyone has a different idea of what the trail means for them and how they're going to use it. But I recommend if you're just starting on trying to develop a trail, trying to connect key corridors, is gather data. And that data, we use cell phone data, and I'll show you what we came up with, but like data tells the story because it's a feel-good thing. A trail's it's a nice to have in an environment where those things are getting tougher and tougher for cities to fund with property taxes and legislation changes. Like having data to help tell your story, and that data can be anything you collect. I mean, it can be, yeah, it can be surveys through residents, it can be economic data, it can be personal preferences. Just be armed with data to make a case for why your community needs trails, wants to grow trails, whatever it may be. We use cell phone data when we did ours, but there's a new company out there that provides data that tracks location based on your cell phone usage on certain apps. It's called Placer AI. Wildly popular. Everyone's using it. It will tell you where, you can draw a polygon around your town or a section of trail or a park or anything, and it will tell you, where the people came from, where they were immediately before they came to that box you draw, and where they went after, what's their average length of time they stay there, all this sort of location-based data. And, it's a super expensive subscription, but there's likely, whether it's the Greater Dubuque Economic Development Corporation, someone, we don't even fund it, but the Greater Des Moines Partnership, we have access through that. There would be an entity, I'm sure, in the region that could provide that has a subscription for that kind of data. If not, I can try to help connect you. But that is important data. Even if you don't use it related to trails, it's cool to see, like, if you host an event in your community, you can pinpoint it and say, okay, these 3 blocks in our city, we want to know from 5 to 7 o'clock, how many people, where did they come from, where were they before, where were they after, how long did they stay? That's available, data that you can use to to help market and get support for your trips.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna change a quick setting here on the screen that was showing this instead of the presenter view. Sorry to interrupt, just wanted to change that to people.
Nope, that's great. We had a unique, when I started this, even in Ankeny, we were 50,000 people. We had trails, 3 regional trails, could not get support from the council. I asked every year for money, a little bit of money to do some trail study, to really, let's study this. Couldn't get support. Then one year I was able to attract a Midwest regional tandem rally. So it was like a 3-day, 5-state bike ride to Ankeny. No one seemed to care that much. Okay, big deal, whatever. But what was super cool about it is I knew it was gonna be in town. I contacted all the hotels, told them to keep track of how many rooms they book in the hotel for this bike ride. And then I let our council know, like, this weekend, we're hosting this bike ride. And the cool thing was, it didn't even hit me until after the fact. That weekend, you could tell who was from out of town because they had a tandem bike, right? There's always bikes all over. But in this weekend, you could say, oh, that's someone, that's a guest from probably out of state versus the local person on the bike. That helped tell our story. But what I did was go to the hotels and then collect the data. How many room nights? It was like 900 room nights. Extrapolated out in terms of how much hotel motel tax was collected. And then the light bulb kind of went off for the council. And it's like, that is direct financial benefit to the city because we are collecting hotel motel tax and then getting to keep that. And from that point forward, once the mind shifted from trails, it's just, every community has them. They're like, wait, there's people that come here, stay in hotels, spend money. Then it was a lot easier to get that support. So having data in any way you, I shouldn't have clicked that.
Screen share.
Any questions so far? So I tell you that
So in
story.
that case, you were the champion.
I was
So
the
city
champion.
council, like you said, we look at numbers and
Yeah.
unless one of us steps up to be the champion, it's gonna be.
Right. And part of that numbers thing is the fact that it's always about priorities. You're always trying to juggle. I mean, there's limited resources, and why should I put this ahead of this? And if you can have the data, no matter what it is, I mean, if you can show the demand or need or financial impact, it sure makes the case a lot easier to share. All right. So this is where in the High Trestle Trail, we drew a polygon around the High Trestle Bridge. So in this case, it shows where people's cell phone rested most frequently at night. So we had like 2,500 dots. Obviously, most people are from the Midwest, most people are from Iowa, but you can begin to see like there are people coming from all over the country and walking on the High Trestle Bridge. So this is that, data that helps tell the story of whether you're a town of 500, you can show people are driving 30 minutes. If they're driving 30 minutes, they're probably having lunch, they're drinking coffee, they're eating ice cream, whatever. We'd heard people were coming, but no one had studied it up until this point. So this is a way of demonstrating through data where people are coming from. We hired a firm to kind of help us with this. They did an inexpensive study, our High Trestle Trail, our bicycle tourism and economic development strategy. It's on our website. Look at it, use it, copyright or steal it, plagiarize it, please. It's for the taking. And in that document, you'll see there's a lot of good recommendations. Like here it shows, 18% of the individuals who step foot on the High Trestle Bridge are not from the state of Iowa. So that became our target market. So about 45,000 people of the 250,000 people on the bridge became our target. And this map here shows kind of there's greater economic impact, obviously, if someone stays in a hotel overnight versus visits for the day. So this kind of shows us these are the cities we could target market to get people to come to our region because they spend greater than national average on outdoor recreation and they're far enough away that would require an overnight stay. Not any different than what you'd see if you mapped it in eastern Iowa. You might get a little bit. Yeah, I think it'd all be pretty much very similar in terms of the cities that you'd want to market to. So as far as the data, this is an important slide because it's kind of the first attempt at capturing the economic impact of trails, and we set up survey stations, and that's important. If you have a trail, get data from the people that are using it. If you don't have a trail, talk to people who may use it, or how they spend money along the trail when they're out visiting other trails. Here you see people like to go long distances. Trail users are typically high income earners, as shown here. A lot of them drive to get to the trail, which is kind of interesting. And if they're going out on a day trip, average spend, pre-inflation pricing was $26 a trip, which makes sense. Going out for a 3-4 hour bike ride, just stop and get something to eat, drink, ice cream, whatever. But if you're staying in a hotel overnight, that's where it's greater economic impact. And what was interesting, and this is like the one thing that caught everyone's attention, is on the bottom left there, you see about 10% of the people we talked to, we surveyed about 200, 3 different days, 3 different locations. About 10% of the people stayed in a hotel, and 90% of those people said it was the trail that brought them. That's why they stayed. And if you do the math on in our region, how many people are on our trail, 10% are staying in a hotel, the economic impact's pretty significant. So I think that's important data that we are able to use. And like I say, it goes back to my first point about collect data however it may be. And even if you can't get it on a trail, you can get it for your regional attractions, your parks, whatever it may be, to kind of help build the case. Because like I always, I say this, I used to work for a county economic development corporation, and it was frustrating for a lot of reasons. But we had 5 county supervisors, and they're all retired individuals who probably hadn't been on a bike in 65 years. Okay, and people shaking their heads have seen it. It's like convincing them that trails are important can be tough, but you can do it through the data, right? Any questions about any of this so far? So I think with your data, I think it's also important to kind of tell a story. Like I can tell you, like my office is near the High Trestle Trail. There's been times I've come into the office and there's cars circling with out-of-state plates looking, and hey, can I help you with something? Yeah, we're here from Wisconsin and we want to bike the High Trestle Trail. Like those anecdotal little stories kind of personalize the data. I think those are important. Like one time I was sitting at the brewery talking to some random person, like, oh, we're staying at the Hampton. Oh, what brings you to Ankeny? It's like, oh, we're doing the trails or whatever. So I think that combined with the data is important. So jumping into the recommendations kind of section here, creating this kind of trail awareness inside and outside the community. And you can do this before you even get your trail, right? You can brand it, label it, market it, use it as a fundraiser, sell the t-shirts, get people excited about it. Look what Decora's done with the Trout River Trail. Like that's become a very important part of their identity. If it didn't have that kind of recognition, brand, logo inside the community, outside the community, it wouldn't have kind of the reputation it has. People wouldn't be aware of it because you're competing with other trails. I think these are all trails from around the country. You can see they kind of have cool logos that are fun, and they put them on t-shirts and hats or bike water bottles, things like that. But it's important to create that awareness for people inside and outside your community, because you're really building a brand. Like you're mentioned connecting Iowa City to West Branch, like that needs a name, and it could be wildly successful. I mean, just the demographics, the people, the events. Like I even think of Ankeny. We have the High Trestle Trail. It's 25 miles. People know it, the bridge. But we've just, as a region, completed the last section to create a 120-mile loop around Des Moines Metro. So you can bike the whole 120 miles on a dedicated trail. And I've been advocating, it's not my role with the City of Ankeny, but I try to get the right people to consider, like, we need to brand that. Like if we branded that 120-mile loop into something cool and marketed it, there is no reason someone from Dubuque or Minneapolis or Madison's not going to come down and like do 2 days, stay in an Airbnb in a small town along the way, do the 100, but it needs something. So we're not even getting it right yet.
So when you did the Ankeny version of that trail, was the rest of the trail already done and you guys just connected to it? Or?
No. So the trail kind of ended at the High Trestle Bridge, a little bit past it.
But where did it start?
It started downtown And I'm not even sure that connection was done. We're still kind of it's connected now. We're making it safer. But you could get from downtown to Ankeny to the High Trestle Bridge and you had to go back. Like once you have a loop, it really changes things because
Yeah.
people get tired of doing, you go out and back. You do that too many times, like, oh, but to create a loop and intention, it just changes the kind of dynamics.
So for the Ankeny part of it though, that was the city council of Ankeny doing that, and then for the rest of it was the county or
The
was it?
county did it, other cities
Okay.
did it, but a lot of it was on the county. I started 11 years ago. It's funny because we did not have the right of way to connect the High Trestle. I take back what I said. The High Trestle Trail started at Ankeny, was not connected to anything and went to the bridge and that was it. That was 3 years ago. But we acquired the right of way 10 years ago and made the connection to the south side of Ankeny, which connected us to the whole region. So that connection was fresh. Yeah. So it's always a work in progress. And a lot of things I'm going to talk about, we can talk about building it at first, that's always the first struggle. And then we'll talk about some recommendations, kind of put the icing on the cake to make it a draw, right? Because I think, what my presentation kind of hits on is like, a lot of times you build a trail and it's like, we're done, we built it. But you could just do a little 5% more and like make it super cool. Draw more people and make it an attraction.
Is that a paved trail or?
Yeah. Okay, another recommendation is wayfinding and branded trail features. People need to know where they are. If you're trying to bring people into your community, people in your community, they'll use your trail, they know exactly everything about it. But there's going to be people that come to your community. They're not going to know that a block, 3 blocks away is a place for, a restroom or a gas station, or, you need some directional wayfinding signage to show people where the services might be, where your city park is, where your city hall, like things like that. Businesses love it because the trail's going to draw people into their businesses. So you help businesses be successful by directing people. And I think through these branded trail features, like you see the examples here, you can begin to like create that identity for your community, right? Like it could be historical elements, it could be whatever it may be. Your brand for your trail or your branded features kind of reinforce your brand image for your community and your trail network. You become known for that.
Your direction is more generic, so businesses.
Yeah. It's a conversation we have because we haven't even nailed this one. Madrid does a great job of it. Madrid, it's on the High Trestle Trail. They have directional signage that says, Al's Pizza, 2 blocks, Becky's Coffee, whatever. You can totally do that. But be prepared to change it, have a program to update it. In our city, we don't have it yet, trying to get the sign in the right place, but I'm advocating for ice cream, shopping, pizza, so we're not changing the names. Some cities I've seen also use the businesses to buy their name and that funds the sign, right? Do you do what you gotta do, right? But no, that's a good question. The other recommendation is these kind of accessibility and connectivity projects. And these are critical because you want to make sure, like you got a short gap between trails in Iowa City and West Branch, like those connections can really make or break the trail. So if you have important community assets, festival grounds, state parks, whatever, trying to make sure your trail is connected to those, and we haven't gotten it right. This picture on the left here shows, Saylorville Lake. Like there's a highway, or it's not a highway, it's a unimproved asphalt road, open ditches, and that's your connection from Saylorville to Ankeny. It's like 1,000 yards. It's not safe. Take a family on, it's not ideal. People pulling their boats by. But I know there's 40,000 people a year who sleep at Saylorville Lake in an RV in tents. I want those people to have as easy access to Ankeny businesses in our community as possible, right? But we haven't been able to get that connection. It's partnership with the county. But those trail kind of connections, and if you're building a new trail, being intentional about, there's always the easy path. And that's maybe where you have an abandoned rail line, or you got a property owner saying, yep, I'll give you the easement of the property. But that's not always the best path if there are important community assets around that's going to drive activity to your trip. Important thing to remember. You know, on the, we're fortunate, recommendation C there in the image, recommendation, our plan was you need to connect. All our hotels were on the non-trail side of the interstate. So if we're going to attract tourists, we had to get them from the hotel to the trail. And that would require some sort of connection over Interstate 35, which I've done this long enough to know it'd be easier for us to attract hotels on the other side than it would to get the DOT to add the overpass. We were fortunate and got 2 no hotels on the west side of the interstate. So now we have a hotel right on the High Trestle Trail. But it's interesting because the owner never thought about the trip of the hotel. No idea. Call them up like, hey, you know, are you, maybe think about incorporating in your lounge or your conference room some trail theme at your bar or whatever. Never crossed his mind he's going to get trail business. It's the only trail, only hotel right on the High Trestle Trail. And it's remarkable to drive by and see all the bike racks in the parking lot for people who are staying in the hotel. Like, so it's not people's first thought, right? This guy made a business decision to open a hotel. Now it's just more business than he ever thought. He didn't think it would drive business. Creating trailhead features like this is really achievable, and you can get super creative. It strengthens your brand, creates awareness of your community. They do not have to be overly expensive or fancy or glamorous. On the bottom right, top center, you see restrooms, drinking fountain. Like, don't forget the basics. Like, that's 101. Like, whatever you're building along the trail, think about benches, water fountains, restrooms. Those are important. But then have some fun with it. Top right, you see instead of just another bench, they got a hammock little art feature. Bright colors, super neat. People remember, hey, meet top left, meet at the corn pit. And that's where everyone kicks off with before their bike ride. It can be local to your community, something unique and memorable, becomes part of your trail identity, doesn't even have to be expensive. On the bottom left, you got a mural. Like a lot of people, I mean, those are things that are designed specifically for social media, right? Not expensive to put that up. People take a picture in front of it. They're driving through, they come to town, they post it. People are like, oh, where's that? And it's right there, right? The one in the bottom center, I think, is important because it's an example of trying to activate your trail or your trail features at all hours of the day, right? Like, you know, midday, if you have something that, you know, stay-at-home parents can come out, play with the kids, it's going to create some activity and vibrancy. So it's like kind of a reminder to don't just create it, whatever it is with the trail, just for bicyclists and trail users. Create some other amenities to keep it active and vibrant. It reinforces the activity. It shows the people who funded it. It's used all the time. There's families out enjoying, in this case, games, whatever it may be, and there's people on the trail. But remember, it does not have to be expensive. I think it just should be kind of unique for your community, right? Like we have a tendency in Ankeny to buy a lot of stuff out of the catalog. And I'm always the one saying, like, let's try to do it. Let's try to get something custom, right? Because that's the easy button. Let's order that bench. Look, it's pretty, it's perfect. It's a bench designed for parks. But you know what? It looks like every other bench in America. Like, maybe spend a little bit more money and do something that can add some value and culture and creativity to community that people are going to remember. Because no one's gonna remember that wrought iron bench that they've seen in every city on vacation. Questions?
Would you be able to minimize the? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, if you're fortunate and your trail can bisect your downtown, the better. You've got a lot more to work with. You've got businesses that want to get involved, they want to support it, they want to invest in it, because they know the trail will bring people. You know, and like I said earlier, it can be people from the next town over. Like I gave a presentation just like this in Prairie City. And they had just connected the trail to Monroe. No major features whatsoever, just 12 to 8 mile, 10 mile connection. And they were already seeing people from Monroe, like with their families to Prairie City, and they'd be in downtown, going to Goldie's, getting a tenderloin, a malt, whatever, excited maybe about someone opening a coffee shop. It might be just enough traffic to be like the tipping point for a new business that your residents get to enjoy all the time. And it wouldn't have been possible without that extra 15% traffic during the warm months, right? So if you can connect your trail through downtown, this is kind of illustrates my point about creativity with murals, with, you know, cool bike racks and public art and, you know, paint, colors, whatever it may be to kind of add some vibrancy to your downtown. I kind of call it, you know, bicycle tourism related enhancements. Obviously things that people remember when they visit. The next slide is about redevelopment or development. It can be new development. In this case, it can be small or large, like wherever your trail is, if you have a trail, kind of leveraging the trail to encourage development around it. Or if you're planning a trail, you can begin to attract investment to your trail corridor, whether it be housing, people. I mean, you can read all the research and studies. It shows property values on trails are higher. It attracts a different clientele that wants to use the trail. There's people in our market in Metro Des Moines that choose where they live based on proximity to trail. They oftentimes want to go long distances. You know, there's just a lot of benefits. You know, and the businesses kind of in your downtown love trail traffic, primarily because, like I showed you on my statistics slide, higher income earners, you know, a lot of great demographics, but they're busy all day. If you're a bicycle bar on a trail, if you're a bar on a bike trail, that serves burgers and beers, instead of being busy at lunch and at dinner, you just slow and steady all day long. And the bike crowds, as business owners have told me, they stay for 1 or 2, they don't overconsume, they just come all day long and leave an hour and a half later and cycle in, because businesses just love it. It's a totally different clientele, right? Now here's where it can get a little tricky and where I try not to lose people. Trying to come up with some sort of anchor feature. Like we talked about the trails heads with cool kind of maybe low cost items in your park, or, you know, the gazebo or something like that. Like if there's any way to have some sort of anchor feature. Now, the top left picture, I recognize not every trail has 130-foot tall pilings for the high trestle bridge to work with, but these kind of anchor features, they can be permanent, they can be temporary, they could be events. Okay, bottom left is from Southwest Iowa. It's like a ride through, I don't know, kind of maybe leaves Council Bluffs. I don't even know if it even goes into Council Bluffs, but it's like 4 or 5 small towns connected, and they identified like on Thursday night, it's like the taco ride. And everyone knows it. It's an event. It's just, that's the, you know, like the neighborhood block party. Everyone just knows on Thursday night, You go do this bike ride, and at the end, there's this giant garden where you sit with picnic tables, your kids can play bags, and you get tacos and you bike home. It's like created, there's no cool features, there's no big art, there's no fancy bridges, the feature is the event. Draws thousands of people, and then people like from the Des Moines Metro will go over to experience the ride. So that's an event-based one. Top right, super simple. Like, who's not going to stop and get their picture taken next to that? And then what are those people going to do with the picture? They're going to put it on Instagram. They're going to put it on Facebook. Someone's going to see it and be like, hey, honey, next weekend, let's go to Holy Cross and use the trail. And guess what? They're going to stop at the gas station. They're going to stop and get pizza and they go home. So it doesn't have to be fancy hotels and people coming from Kansas City. Bottom right's a park. And in this case, in Grimes, Iowa, it's a cool park. It's a water park, unique water feature. That's kind of an anchor feature. But my favorite one is in the middle, and that's in Wisconsin. Of course, in Wisconsin.
Of course.
Yeah, there's alcohol involved. I can say that because we're close, and I used to work there. My kids were born there. But that pumper truck, it's a Sprecher branded old fire truck, converted to a mobile beer tap truck. And that moves from park to park. Like Dubuque. Who's from Dubuque? That would be perfect in Dubuque, Iowa. Right? This is in Milwaukee, but that beer garden bought at the below is what comes with the truck. The city announces, on these 6 weeks, on Monday through Thursday, the city beer garden is going to be at Hawkeye Park. And then the next 6 weeks, the tables, the tents, the beer truck is going to this park. And that can all be tied into even if you don't have a bike trail, excuse me. You just have a mobile brewery that just bounces around town, right? But if you have a bike trail, I mean, that could be something you as a region or any region could create, like, Holy Cross Trail to Balltown. It's this 6 weeks, the mobile beer garden's going to be in Balltown, and the next, whatever. You get the point, right? There's one in Waterworks Park in Des Moines, and I will tell you, of all the fancy, non-fancy, casual places in Des Moines, to sit at a picnic table and under the pine trees, your feet in the grass, the kids are playing bags, there's no business. They sell bratwursts and German beer. It's like the most casual, laid back, most enjoyable thing to do because you're in a park, car's not out there on the busy road. It's just nice. Activating your parks, creating cool stops. This is really drawing people to your parks. You can do some fun stuff with murals that are tied. Like this is obviously a mural of balloons, and if you pose and get the picture just right, it looks like you're floating away. Like, don't underestimate. I'm sure no one does. I'm telling you what you already know, the power of social media, because everyone's going to see that and be like, we gotta go do that. And that's I don't know, $1,200 mural, driving traffic to wherever it is. And that's activating your parks. It's kind of like if you build the trail, use the trail to activate kind of your other community assets, whatever they may be. And don't take just my examples, like your communities better than anyone. Like you could all rattle off, no matter how big your community is, a couple things that are just cool views, where to watch sunset, cool places, unique creeks, whatever. Another recommendation is creating a kind of a bike program. So it kind of goes back to the champion, a group of people that are kind of dedicated to like furthering the cause, right? Like these cities have some sort of organized coalition of people who work together. We don't have that. We do have kind of a connection with the 3 other cities on the High Trestle Trail where we meet quarterly and talk about maintenance and whatever. We could do a better job. It's just I don't have time, and there's models out there that you can copy to create a community bicycle program. And that can be your trails. It can also be bicycle program to on street to get people to your trails, right? Kind of one of the last recommendations before I get into examples and then open up for questions is, yeah, protecting the trail experience. And I think this is important because we've missed some opportunities. Every city does, but you know, train tracks, converted railways used to be the eyesores. Everyone built their back to the train tracks. Now you're trying to like flip it, and people get people to face the trail. But if you have a trail planned, you think you might have a chance for a trail, like try to protect the trail corridor for the right type of investment. And I totally recognize you can't be picky, but at the same time, there's always an opportunity to get something a little bit better that ties into the trail. We had a ride on the High Trestle Trail. We just connected it to the south, built a $2 million overpass. I'll show you. Filled in the 1.2 mile gap, connected the High Trestle to the whole region. And we had 15 acres right in the middle of it that was zoned in a commercial corridor, zoned manufacturing. We tried like heck to get some trail oriented development, housing, mixed use, or something cool. And U-Haul came in and bought it. Now it's like 15 acres of U-Haul storage and whatever. Missed opportunity. Like there's no connection to the trail at all. It could have been so cool, but now it'll never be anything cool. Now getting into kind of what we've done, any questions about the recommendations? Anything any things you have in your community that you're thinking about and how this applies that I could help with? Because I'm sure if you have a question about something specific in your community, someone in the group probably has the same question.
Do you do anything in the winter to clear it?
We clear it. Yeah. Yeah, we try to do the best we can. People, I don't know about that. People use it, like we don't do the whole thing. We got 4.1 miles of the High Trestle in Ankeny. Now, after that, it's more for, reducing traffic. People do use it in bike.
Even in the winter?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, fat tire bikes. Fat tire bikes, we got a police officer with bikes 365 days a year. Bikes to work and then drives all day long.
You have problems with snowmobiles trying to use it?
No. The county does. In the city, they know they'll get in trouble. Yeah. What other questions you got?
What about?
Yeah.
What about safety features like lighting and?
Yes. So I'll get into what we're lighting. We don't light anything as of today. As of next month, we're lighting the trail through our commercial area right downtown, and that's all we're ever going to light. Fortunately, we haven't had any, assaults or anything like that. Lighting's tricky because, it's oftentimes, in this case, a old rail line, so it goes through neighborhoods and people don't want the lights in their backyards. We decided to light it as a way to get people to shop longer and linger longer in our historic downtown. So we're just lighting a section of it. We have to make investments. We're putting underpasses in under major highways for safety, super expensive. Not for everyone. We've got hawk signals for busy crossings that we can't do an overpass or an underpass. So there's some pedestrian safety and there's a physical safety, but so far so good. You have a question?
This may sound crazy, but do you see where people use the road itself as part of their paths that they're using, or?
Yeah, we have one dedicated kind of bike share lane section to connect two districts. But fortunately, we have a wide sidewalk program, citywide kind of master plan that we pay. We have a lot of wide sidewalks, trails that are leading to this regional trail. And the city pays the incremental price difference between a standard sidewalk and the wider. So we fund to make it wider.
But the citizen maintains that.
Citizen maintains it. They love it.
But that has to be replaced, the citizen pays to replace.
It's usually along, yeah.
It's on their
Their
property.
sidewalks, yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, it would technically, they maintain it. Yeah,
So if they replace that part. then they
Let
have
me-
the map. It's already there.
yeah, let me get back to you on that. Like, let me check on that. Cause it's along major arterials and I know I've seen our crews plowing some, which makes me wonder if we plow all the wide ones. That's might be the deal. I know we paid to upsize them. We might actually pay to plow those. Okay, so it's important. I get you an answer. What you're saying. Noted.
Kind of on that same note, do you have to see more bikers in town? Do you get complaints, the locals complaining about the bikers on the road?
No, because we have maybe 100 miles of release wide sidewalks and trails, but it is. It's remarkable. Like I've been quoted as like, my kids can go bike anywhere in a city of 75,000 people. I don't worry about them because they're on a trail, ice cream, pool, everything. But it wouldn't have happened that way if we didn't, and it's not much money to fund the difference between the standard sidewalk. Even in a city growing as quickly as Ankeny, it's not that much. And look, over time, it's created. What other questions do you have? Okay, I'm taking too long, sorry. Now I'm gonna get into kind of fun stuff that we're doing that's, I hope you can learn a little bit from these stories, but. So our process has been, we hired a company to do a bicycle tourism and economic development strategy. That's what's on our website. One of the recommendations is that kind of our activating art stops. So we did a follow-up study called our High Trestle Trail Public Art Master Plan. And our community wanted more art and culture. And we were fortunate that our trail bisects the whole city, new neighborhoods, old neighborhoods, industrial areas, commercial areas, north to south, cuts it in half. So we decided to just kind of focus on the trail corridor is where we're going to add art and culture in our community. So we set out, hired a firm, did awesome community engagement, really looking to leverage the trail network into a greater asset, transform our section of trail into something pretty special. And we did it all kind of during the pandemic, and it was awesome because people had time to fill out surveys. A lot of them. So we had like 1,200 plus people engaged in this High Trestle Trail Public Art Master Plan. And that survey work went into kind of identifying who we are as a community. And it's something I'd recommend you do, to just put a trail on the ground. You don't need to do a whole lot of community input because it's just asphalt on the ground or cinder, whatever it may be. But like if you're going to start adding features or branding or wayfinding or logo or whatever, having that community input's pretty important. So we did all this stakeholder engagement, steering committees, focus groups, you name it, pandemic, it was all on Zoom. And we sent it out to artists nationally and said, here's who we are as a community. Give us your best ideas for how to activate our trail. And we're not looking for sculptures. Like you see those everywhere. They're pretty once when you go by, but they're just, after a couple times, you don't even notice they're there. And we said, we want things you can do, like things you can touch, feel, experience, play on, activate it through allowing people to do fun stuff. So we identified areas, said, here's the areas where we own some right of way, we have some excess, we have a property owner that's friendly, whatever it may be. So we created this kind of map showing them where the projects could end up. And we wanted big stuff. We wanted to strengthen our identity. We wanted small stuff. And here's some of the artists came up with things based on the feedback like this that were cool, but just not us. Right. So this is where the steering committee was important. Because it's like, to me, I look at that square body Chevy on boulders. I'm like, does that look like Ankeny, Iowa to anyone? They missed the mark, right? Super cool, but not, it wasn't a fit. Or that overpass, it was like super abstract. It's like something you see in Norway. The one on the top right was cool because it was like constellations. So it's like at night they light up little fiber optic lights like the Big Dipper and super neat, but looked terrible during the day because you had this weird infrastructure hanging above the trail. And then the bottom right one was just it's kind of cool because it was playing on our hometown field. So that's a restroom, men's and women's, but it's like our parks director was like, and how is that ever going to not get vandalized? And how are we going to maintain that? And the artist's like, well, it's all going to be fake and made out of resin. It's like, yeah, it'll be graffitied and spray painted and soon. So some of the things we did put in our plan that was approved by the council that we're working towards funding available. It's a long-term plan, so I don't want anyone to think we got all this money, we're building all this right now, because it's in my spare time, I try to raise money for this stuff. This was an artist out of Canada that had this detour. So think of Tom Hanks in the movie Big, where he's jumping on the keys. In this case, it's those lines, they light up and make sounds of a piano. So you can do it with your feet, you can bike through it. It sounds like you're riding on piano keys. It lights up at night. It's also $500,000. That'll be the last thing I'm sure we build. This is something like I think a community could use where we have an underpass in Ankeny, and the artist's plan was good playing back to who we are as a community, our hometown feel. They were going to set up a booth outside of the Hy-Vee or a high school football game and ask people kind of what their aspirations are, and then create them into these tiles that go into decorating our underpass. So you can see like some people's aspirations are big, like fall in love. Other people's aspirations, like I'm just going to buy some milk. Some dance every day or have a beer, like really personalizing your art to your community. Another one people loved, and we heard this theme over and over when we researched our trail users, is like people use the trail to like escape to nature. So like our plans are heavy in like natural themes. So the number one, when we surveyed 1,200 people, what do you hope to get out of the trail? Number one is health and wellness. Number two was this escape to nature. And number three was the social aspect, which I was kind of interesting. Here you have, we did a lot of plans for native landscaping, which we're working on. You got the prairie animal, kind of, you can climb on it. Kids can climb on it, kind of plays tricks in your eyes. It disappears and goes big and small because of the layered steel. And then here you have a quintessential kind of Iowa trestle bridge, but you have stairs inside of it. You walk up these stairs and then you're looking out over the trail. Like people really like high vantage points, like we all do. You go on vacation, you go to the high point, look out over the city. Here it's the opposite of the high pressure bridge to the north. You're looking down at the bicycle trail versus being part of the bicycle trail.
And this is there.
No,
No.
no, I haven't showed you anything that's there
Okay.
yet. These are all part of our plans we're working
Okay.
towards. This is here. This is kind of fun. People hated it. The people hated the color.
Really?
Oh, they hated it. Hated it. At one point, I was getting estimates what it was going to cost to repaint it because people hated it. And here's the thing: it was interesting. People hated it because it didn't look like any other park in Ankeny. It was beige, right? It's like, but the whole point is it was public art. Like this was not meant to be another. So here's the thing: this is built. We got some outside money to fund it. We needed a restroom. We needed a trailhead. So instead of doing, this goes back to what I said earlier, instead of buying like something out of the catalog, which our parks department does every day, here's some benches, here's a metal canopy, concrete pad, here's your standard cinder block bathroom. We put a little extra money into this artist design concept, which is a very well-known artist no one has ever heard of, but it's intended to be welcome to Ankeny. Our hometown, like it's supposed to be a quintessential Iowa farmhouse. You walk up 3 steps, you got a little picket porch, you got 2 porch swings. And you can sit there on your porch swings. That door is fake, the window's fake, and you can sit there on your porch swings instead of your standard basic bench. That thing on the right's this beautifully painted steel gramophone where you can like. There's a little shelf in it. You play your music and set your cell phone in it. Projects it just a little bit louder So when you're sitting in the chair swinging, you can listen to your favorite music without annoying the neighbors. And then behind it's a restroom. So it's just a little spin on, and it's like when you're coming from the north into Ankeny, it's the first kind of trail amenity and it's different. Now, people quit complaining about the color. It's the Ronald McDonald, right? Yellow and red. Now, fortunately, that yellow is faded. But the best story is now people love it. And it goes back to what I said earlier about creating an identity for your community, because I can tell you everyone knows where that is. And then it's like bicycle groups like, hey, you want to bike? Yeah, let's meet at the Yellow House. I could take a picture of that to Jordan Creek Mall. And yeah, it's Ankeny. It's not anything that special, but it's memorable. But the best story is, so that door is a fake door and fake window. This winter, some kids broke into it, and they pry a metal. It's a metal steel door you'd find on a house. They pried at the top. They pried down low. You see the marks on it. They pried right at the door handle. They got it open, and I'm telling you, like right behind the wall, right behind the door is a cinder block. And I would have given anything to see their faces. Like they worked their butts off to break into that thing. And that door swung open. They were so excited. It was just straight concrete. So this is our pedestrian bridge that connects to the regional trail. So the High Trestle Trail begins kind of, I guess, in the middle of this. Goes south, the south is connected to 2 other regional trails. But I share this with you for 2 reasons. One is, at the time this was proposed 4 years ago maybe, the recommendation from staff was a basic engineered pedestrian bridge. See them all over the country. Look like this, large. See them over 235 in Des Moines, basic. And the council was like, because we were talking about all this trail stuff, how to make it cool and leverage all this, they were like, no, bring us something better. And they spent more money to create this. And I couldn't have been more excited, because this becomes like kind of an iconic feature in our community. People are gonna like, oh, that's an Ankeny. And there's historical elements with the High Trestle Bridge, with the way the design of the concrete is, and it's an area of our community that was coal mines, so that metal looks just like the old coal mine shafts. And then if you look carefully, a lot of people wanted the plaque in the middle to say Ankeny, because you're an Ankeny, but it's far enough in the community, you're an Ankeny. So it took some convincing to like, let's let people know. Everyone knows the High Trestle Bridge. Let's let people know it starts right here. So it says in big letters, High Trestle Trail. So I've showed you big projects. We did some art in a bus shelter stop. This sign we made out of $1,200 with some steel and bikes. The police department, recovered an old signs that's kind of sits up in the community. So not all the stuff has to be expensive. Top left is, I say fun everywhere, because it's like you could just add little inexpensive things to make it fun, whether it's the hay bales that are painted. Like here, it's a little pop-up cargo container that's a little temporary place for a break or a drink or to rest. And it's just a repurposed cargo container. Last couple slides here. What we're currently working on is our experience park, which is right in the center of the community. Again, I mean, it's 14 acres of excess trail right away. The trail's not moving. We got all this extra land centrally located. Let's turn it into something cool. So we did a lot more research, and we're going to pack a bunch of cool amenities into this 14 acres and call it the experience park. So you got the bridge at one end, you got the experience park at the other. When it's done, it'll never look this pretty, because renderings always make things look better. But you can see some of the animals. That glow trail is in. It's not open yet, but it's been poured. Not that expensive at all. You can see the bollard lighting that we're doing. I would love for it to look 40% this lush. It's beautiful. But that's an area we're working on. So that's kind kind of where we've come from, where we're going, with a lot of recommendations, I think, in the middle of things that we're considering that I feel strongly could apply to any city in the state of Iowa. What do you have for questions about it?
You guys, have a bigger area with more people. How much damage and graffiti and stuff do you deal with?
Yeah, no, it's a good
Because we've
question.
had it our own.
Oh, yeah, we deal with it, like our underpasses, we try to light them and we just paint them white and give them a blank canvas and just go back and paint over it.
You have cameras set up in place?
We don't. We've talked about having like paying a professional graffiti artist to come in and do something cool, because studies will show punk kids are less likely to put graffiti over some other person's graffiti. But it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I mean, we get it. We get vandalism a lot. Parks get damaged a lot.
Yeah.
Plugging toilets, ripping sinks off the wall.
Yeah, it's
You know,
ridiculous.
it is. Yeah, it's a never ending battle. Never ending battle. So, and I think when it comes to funding trails, like the county, I mean, the cities have a role in some of it, but if the trails go beyond city limits and getting county and state, regional support, whatever you may get it, wherever it comes from, trying to make the regional case, because like your city might be working on your section, but that's gonna eventually go somewhere. So getting your county supervisors to the table, also getting your major employers, because your major employers, trails are a quality of life thing, right? They're a quality of life benefit. It's gonna help employers retain people, attract people. I tell people all the time, it's like when I'm talking about kind of these fancy things and whatever, and tourism and economic impact, it's like first and foremost, we are building trails to enhance the quality of life for residents who live in Ankeny. Because if you start with, we're gonna bring all these people, you might lose people in your community who they don't want more people. But first and foremost, it truly is about enhancing quality of life for people who live there. If you can do it in a way that adds some economic benefit and tourism activity, even better, right? Makes the case stronger to get more broad-based support.
So for funding, where do we start? Especially with the current,
Yeah,
maybe future state of where we are with
yeah. Yeah,
taxes and all that.
yeah, property taxes, I mean, even DOT's questionable on what their funding available, the Iowa Heritage Foundation is a great resource. But but start with data, like. Start with data. And you're a West Branch. I think take my presentation, get as much data as you can. Plant the seed that you want to do trails and you want to get involved so people begin thinking about it. But I think you've got to have some stories, and you got to have some data in this climate, because the thing is, it's your county supervisors. It's not like they don't believe in trails. They're having to prioritize public safety over trails, or that's the struggle we in cities have every day. It's the prioritization. So making that case and that includes the data to sell your story is critical. But I think your county, state, major employers, you got regional foundations or regional economic development groups, because you can point to regions in the country that are really leveraging the trails into economic activity. And I think I do economic development. I feel strongly how far we've come would be different if it were driven by parks. And that's no offense to parks, but when a parks person is talking about trails, it's about health and wellness. When I'm talking about trails, it's about how do we attract more businesses, and they're thinking tax base, not maintenance costs. It's like, wait, we can turn this into revenue and new tax base and people come to town. It's a different selling point.
And I would agree with that, but here's my I think with small towns, I think it's a little different than the bigger towns. And here's why. I think that with small towns, the culture might have to change because generally speaking, they're small towns, the business, like businesses, they might not be open
Yeah,
like a big city.
Yeah.
So there has to be a culture shift of maybe, you know, there's some businesses that only open a couple of hours, you know,
Right.
and it might not be weekends, so it's a little different.
we struggle with that in Ankeny. It's like this trail was right through our historic downtown, and all the businesses, retail, shopping is closed at 5. Sun's out till 9 in the summer. Bars are packed, people everywhere, can't get them to stay open past 5. So, you know, and I think in small towns that, so we as a bigger city trying to grow tax base and jobs. Smaller towns trying to go population. Like, I think that becomes your angle, part of your angle for like, how are we gonna attract families, keep families here? Inexpensive amenities that don't require, you know, not a swimming pool, super expensive, you're gonna lose money every year. You know, a trail can be that thing. It's a lot of money up front, but after that, it kind of runs itself, right?
See, from our standpoint, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Here in the middle of Dubuque County. So we always talk about doing a trail just for people to walk on because
Yeah.
everybody walks on the road.
Yeah,
And it's dangerous, you know, they're walking out of town, I'm walking out of town.
Yeah.
You know, on the highway and stuff. But in talking ECIA, when Kelly was here, we would have meetings in tourism view.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams, they've got a connection between those two cities, make a loop and go through the small towns and then go hit the river road out through Balltown and Sherrill and then connect it back on the Butte side. So, I mean, I don't know where that, you know, everybody was in that meeting, we were all there.
I don't know that it's gone anywhere since
Yeah,
then, but that's kind of
I mean,
where my
supervisors
mindset
were
was.
there, everybody was
and-
there, so I
and
mean, it
hometown
was,
side,
everybody,
once-
great idea. That's how we get
Yeah.
the other towns in the county hooked up to the Field of Dreams and, you know, get
Yeah.
out to the rest of the county, so.
I love it. I love it. And I think like ECIA, it's like the regional plan is always much better received in federal funding sources than one town. I want money to build this. But if it's like, hey, we're 8 communities working together across the county and we got the support of the MPO, you name it, that opens up a lot more federal dollars, right? So yeah, I think like that's the next one.
How would that work though? Like, would you negotiate with every farmer from?
Well, that's it, and then, you know, we started with every small town come up with something baseball team. And then almost like a scavenger.
Yeah.
So that it draws people to the other small towns and they take a picture and put it on Facebook or something.
Right.
You know, so that they can track,
Yeah,
you know, where they've been,
Yeah.
so like, I think Worthington put a big baseball club. in
Yeah,
the
I
mall.
think, yeah, because
You know,
they
that
have
kind
one,
of
I think that's what the idea is, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody do something.
I like the frills.
We were talking about doing a mural here, you know, baseball themed mural inside the building, so that.
Yeah.
next
And it
to
has
the
a
brewery,
history,
so,
I
you
mean,
know,
it has a
Right,
story.
come drink a beer, take a picture, do something so that they can stand somewhere.
Right, and you mentioned the brewery, like that, and that's something that can drive a lot of traffic combined with the trail.
Yeah.
Like you can't overstate that impact. I mean, there's trails in Des Moines Metro that was dying to have a brewery because they know that brings so much. You know, I think of what's approximate distance between the trail of West Branch and Iowa City? Oh my, yeah, like, look at these regional rides, like. There would be thousands of people on any night of the week. If there was even a temporary destination in West Branch, like, that'd be the easiest thing I could think of in the state of Iowa.
Well, after we have the birthplace. I was gonna say, don't you guys have a big
Right.
for mountain birds?
Right.
Yeah,
It's got a big
attraction.
grant from IEDA, right, but I'm saying like, even in Des Moines. Even in Des Moines, there is a bicycle ride from Des Moines to Cumming. It's like, yeah, I mean, on a Tuesday night, there can be 2,000 people. And the Cumming Tap has a beer garden set up. That's a block large
Mhm.
and everyone's just hanging out. Like, that in Iowa City and West Branch would be off the charts. Right. Um. So yeah, I think just thinking through it, I mean, yeah, it's long term, right? When you go starting from scratch to build it, you don't even have to buy, like, oftentimes it's easements, long-term easements, adjacent, you're separated from the highway, you're not impacting the cornfield, you're off to the side enough, you're not, impacting too much land. We see that. We don't have rail lines. We could get some people to donate, give, sell, whatever it may be, but I think just if you're starting from scratch, being very intentional about where it goes and where its future could be, and what does it need to connect to make the most of it, touch the most people, or whatever you're trying to accomplish. If it is just a place to walk, make it that, but think big term, 40 years from now, how is it part of a bigger plan?
How long did it take from when you first put the bug out to when you actually get the approval on the council?
For what piece? So we bought,
I would say when you first mentioned it,
yeah.
for any progress to go
Oh, it's years.
years.
Yeah, I mean, we purchased 10 years ago the excess right away to connect the high trestle to other trails, and just built it 3 years ago, 7 years. I mean, it's a time consuming process. Connect the Raccoon River on the west side of the metro to the high trestle. There was a gap, 3 miles, maybe it took 10 years. Monroe is trying to connect to Red Rock. And they've connected, so sometimes it doesn't make sense until it all comes together. They've connected Monroe to Prairie City, where Neil Smith National Wildlife Refuge is. And they're trying to connect to Des Moines. They got the middle section done first. The two anchors are unconnected at, say, Red Rock and Des Moines Metro. But they're able to get this done, so they'll eventually get there. It'll take 7 more years probably. But, there's a regional group, whether it's your COG, whether it's Heritage Foundation, whatever, kind of driving it. But getting that information in front of your elected officials to start building the case, that takes time too. So trying to get people on board is kind of the first step. Then get the plan.
I think, Brian, I think we need to kind of revisit that. I do feel like it's kind of,
I think that part,
which
the data. I think that was
with
evident
all
when we were
of
in that meeting.
going through,
Yeah,
yeah, I think, well, I wonder if there's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that might be them, but I do think we need to go back and pick up where it left off. I feel like,
Kelly's kind of driving.
yeah, it lost momentum.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
wrapped up.
I mean, they put together the catalog that.
Yeah,
that's about
digital,
that.
GPS spots and stuff.
Yeah.
like that.
So,
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'd be happy to answer questions after the fact. You can find my email online, with the City of Ankeny. I'm happy to share anything more if you have questions, if you have more elected officials, county supervisors that want information. The reason I care so much is because I moved back to the state of Iowa 12 years ago, and we all see what areas of our country are booming, and they have these incredible natural assets, oceans, mountains, beautiful weather all the time, things that we will never ever have. And I have felt that, like, the one thing we can have that's better than everyone in the country can be the best trail network statewide. And I feel very strongly that we already have I don't even know if it's arguable, just already have an incredible statewide trail system that people come from out of state and they cannot believe how great the trails are in the state of Iowa. And that is, I've heard that so many times. And I feel like with more investment, more strategic connections, we can easily become known as the state with the greatest trail network, which can be our long-term, one of the things that help with population growth. That can be our mountains or great weather, like these incredible trails. And we take it for granted, like even in Des Moines Metro, it's like, no, it's a trail, it's no big deal. You invite anyone from out of state, like, holy smokes, this is unbelievable. But you know, there's work to do. And I think the state clearly agrees because everyone knows the Destination Iowa program that was out a couple of years ago, pandemic funds, funding. I think 30+% of all that $100 million went into like major trail upgrades in Cedar Rapids and Sioux City. I think there's more of an eye on trails than there ever has been, which means I think there's going to be more funding. The state Iowa Bike Coalition just did a economic impact study statewide, what the trails economic billions, like it's unbelievable. We read the study, it's how many jobs, how many billions of dollars are invested because of the trails in Iowa. And it's that data. So you got some of my anecdotal stuff for our trails, but there's now statewide data that the Iowa Economic Development Authority helped fund to put in front of your elected officials and county supervisors and other folks to like make the case for expanding trails in Iowa.
This is Sean online. I've got a question.
Yeah.
And by the way, I would agree with that. Working in South Dakota right now, Iowa's way beyond what they're doing over there. So it's a good example to follow for them, I think. I was wondering, you mentioned the going to the city council and having a hard time getting funding until you showed them that data. You were just getting little amounts of money. So as economic development director, then what did you ask them for when they were starting to give you more money? Like what did you prioritize for city funding?
Yeah, my first major ask was getting better data as far as coming up with an economic development plan for our trails. And included in that was like very specific economic impact data for our community, because I knew that if I had the funding, I could show through data that it's much bigger than anyone realizes. So I started with that. And then since that, I've asked for money for actual trail projects. So I didn't jump into projects until I had what I felt was data I could use to go bigger.
Was the data source, was it that I know you mentioned it earlier. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, that back then, 4 years ago when we did it, it was just cell phone data. But yeah, placer data, you can get that, should be able to get that for free now. And then we paid to do the surveys. So we talked to actual people. That was the 2 data points we used because we couldn't get, the only way we could get economic impact of dollars was from actually surveying people at a card table along the trail.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that
once you have the data,
it's easy.
well, from an economic standpoint, you take that to the city council, and the city council, what they're supposed to do is they look at the budget and say, okay, we're gonna get a return on our money of X%. So it's not gonna be an out of pocket expense, it's gonna be an investment in return.
Exactly, because up until that point, trail was just another, made it be a playground. You know, there was no return on a trip. We were able to show there's an actual
But like
return.
you said,
on our life.
you know you're gonna lose money because the operating costs. is so high.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good question. Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock. I appreciate everyone listening. Hopefully everyone learned something good, valuable to take away. Like I said, I'll be a resource. Call me anytime at work, email me if you have questions.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
the invite.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming. It was,
Yeah.
this is good as I remember. Thank you everyone for attending. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.